I have a theory that whatever you know, the thing that hits is people remember, and you know, you're always going to have that. You can't run from it. I got to do a show with Kerry Russell, Matt Reeves' first show, J.J. Abrams' first TV show. It's magic.
Welcome to Salon Talks. I am Mary Elizabeth Williams, and I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be so fun today.
Yeah.
I am here with Scott Speedman. He is on this amazing, incredible new show on Peacock called Teacup. You also know him, of course, classic Ben on Felicity. Yes. Team Ben here. You also know him from Animal Kingdom, from You, from the Underworld films, the first couple of those. The film Crimes of the Future.
Yes.
Incredible. I want to ask you about that.
Yes.
The classic The Strangers, and now Teacup, based on Robert McMannon's novel Stinger. It's been called by Stephen King all killer, no filler.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. He doesn't do that a lot, so when I saw that, I was very happy, and very happy for our showrunner, who is it's his first show, so he was really excited too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The buzz has been really good.
Yeah, it's going well. You know, you never know how these shows are going to go, so no, it's been going very well. I mean, when I first read these scripts, you know, I had a bit of a tingle that happens every once in a while. You know, some of the other stuff I've done, like The Strangers and Felicity and stuff like that. Like, I thought, you know, this could connect with an audience. So hopefully over time, maybe we'll do multiple seasons, and I think over time it'll build into something people really connect with.
For people who, you can watch the first couple of episodes now, but for those who haven't seen anything, you don't want to give too much away.
Sure.
What does the word teacup mean to you about this show? What does that represent?
You know, I mean, to be honest, I know the writer really well, and I knew there was a meaning behind it. I didn't want to ask him, and he didn't really want to even talk about it to me when I first got the first 3 scripts. He was just like, just let it be, you'll figure it out in the end. So for me, you know, I don't really know what I would say for the first, I'll give it away. I won't be able to, it's a metaphor for something, and, you know, containment of some kind. Yeah, containment, that's what I'll say.
All right. You can get that from the trailer.
Yeah.
If you even haven't watched the show, you can get from the trailer that there is an element of containment there. And you are playing such an interesting character because you are the head of this family. Your family is in jeopardy. You're trying to work through it. But very quickly, it becomes apparent that this is also a complicated guy who has existed in a morally gray area. You start from a place where we as viewers may not necessarily be rooting for you. Tell me about that and what it's like to play this guy who has to win us back and also his family.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me. You know, when I think earlier in my career, I probably would have been a little scared off by that, of starting the character where he stepped out from his family, he's cheated on his wife, he's revealed it off camera before we meet the family. He's talking about leaving the family for another woman to be with her. You don't see any of that. You don't know the who's and the what's of the whys of how we came to be and how our relationship fell apart to get us to that point. So you're just kind of jumping in with these characters, which was really challenging as a writer, what Ian did there. And I thought, wow, this could be really challenging for me as an actor to start there, know that they're going to hate me or not be with me, and then have to spend the next 6, 7, 8 episodes trying to win the audience back, my wife back, and win the audience back. But you know, it was an interesting journey that way. But yeah, I was actually kind of like that idea of doing it that way, and not having the prerequisite 2 episodes where you get to know the characters and the family, and just jumping in
with somebody who's maybe a little shady to us.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, he's not at the most balanced part of his life. I think he's probably a failed writer of some kind. He's a teacher at the local English school, English teacher at the local high school. And he's not really, all the way there. So, but through the series, he finds his way back to his family.
And the metaphor of the show, again, without giving anything away, it resonates on multiple levels that this is a story about trust.
Yeah.
This whole show is about who do you trust.
Yes. Yeah, that starts with me and Yvonne's character, Maggie, obviously, and then, descends into the madness of the show with you can't trust anybody, can you trust your neighbors? And then with different aspects of the show that people will see as they watch it, there's, very much that aspect and that metaphor comes to light.
Can you even trust your own family?
Yeah, can you trust the people in the same room with you? Can you trust the people you live with every day? who knows? We'll see.
Right. It's a macro and micro thing. And
yes.
And you have said that you have played parents before in the past, but now you are a dad.
Yeah.
You have a young daughter. You have a brand new 7-week-old baby.
Yes.
How does that change how you play these characters? Because you have said that parenthood is scary.
For me, it really was. I mean, the idea in my 30s and 20s and late 30s to having kids just would seem crazy to me. I was not ready to sort of give up that part of my life to be a dad, you know what I mean? So I'm very happy that I had kids later because I'm, bored of myself at this point. And all the neuroses that goes into, everyday life, but of course being an actor and the focus on you, and you're just ready to give up and just give it over to these kids. But yeah, when I think back to playing multiple dads in different, shows and movies and stuff like that, you want to go back and redo all those performances because you know so much more now just innately, just having these kids running around. I mean, when I'm with my 2-year-old, just the heartstrings that pull, she was just the flower girl at a wedding in San Diego, the other night, and just watching that, you're just like, so much more about father just doing that. It's a pretty crazy experience.
But it lends itself, I imagine, in a unique way to the genre of horror for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of thriller horror movies and a lot of action movies too, when they're done well, they're family-based, and the threat of family, I think just everybody can relate to it, and the characters are immediately put into this very watchable situation. And you're rooting for them to solve the problem of the kids being in danger, basically. So it's a pretty easy one, but it's a tried and true thing, and I think it works really well. And I think if you actually respect the family dynamics and write towards it in a very earnest way, you can have something very exciting.
You've talked about when you were presented with this script, getting that kind of tingle. You talked about that at Comic-Con this year. One of the other projects you mentioned getting the tingle on was The Strangers. Mm-hmm. How does that land? Because they're obviously very, very different stories.
Yeah.
These are different genres, television, film. What is the tingle for you?
It's, wow, I think an audience could connect with this. This is an earnest telling. A lot of times you read genre things and they're rushing through, let's get through the relationship, the family, the character, to get to the things people are going to be quote unquote excited by. But, with The Strangers, I remember thinking the scenes themselves, wow, this relationship really jumps off the page here. If we can get that on screen and that tone and feel on screen, I really think the horror elements are going to be terrifying. And for whatever reason, I connected with it in that way. And I think it's the same thing here with Teacup. I mean, Ian McCulloch, the showrunner, he writes, I know his writing really well from previous work, and we've written something else together actually on the side before this. So I knew his work really well, and I had heard he was doing something in the horror space, and I immediately called my agent. I wanted to read what he was doing in that space because he writes these character-driven westerns, real interesting dramas. So I thought that could be a really beautiful marriage of the two things. Somebody that's not necessarily into horror writing a horror series. He writes, character-driven pieces. So I had a feeling his style was going to merge well with James Wan's style, and it did.
And you have said this is a family drama.
It is. It really begins and ends there. I mean, I think everybody talks like that, but I really felt like, if we can get the right time and space to have those scenes really play out with what was on the page, we were going to be in business.
It's a family drama with moments that make you go, oh, damn.
Yeah, we don't want to see that.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah. Are there moments on the set, even though you know how the pretty much literal sausage gets made, where you just are like, oh, no. Peace out.
Yeah, I think what's cool, what's happening now, in movies too, which I'm happy to see. I think, Alien Romulus came out and they were using a lot more practical effects than they were, when they were doing 3 and 4 and 5 of those. So I think there's been this pull back to practical effects, which I love. That's how I was weaned on those movies, and I just resonate much more with that type of horror. So when I got to set here, we had much more practical effects. We had actual things to look at, not just a tennis ball and a tripod, which was really fun for me. And I think it just made it all the more real for the cast and crew, and it just was easier to do.
You have been in so many different horror projects. You clearly have an affinity for this genre. You've got another one coming up soon, The Cellar Door. What is it about that genre that really connects with you as a fan?
Yeah.
Obviously, you must first and foremost be a fan.
Yeah, I mean, some of the movies that I grew up watching that, I loved and scarred me were horror movies. And I loved, I probably was too young to be watching those, and they've stayed with me a long time. And there's something about that genre when it works and it's an earnest movie. With some of the greats have made incredible horror movies. It just, they just jump off the screen. Audiences, obviously, we like to go and watch these things. We like to go to the theater and watch these things all together and be scared all together. I think that's a huge part of the theater-going communal experience, which, as much as things are changing theatrically, I think those movies that still work are in the horror space. Midsommar, stuff like that I've watched recently. They were so great to watch as, in an audience. And I love that. That's where I'm always trying to find stuff like that we can all watch together.
Is there a horror movie that you think, I wish I could go back and be in that one? Or I wish if there was a remake of it, I'd do it in a heartbeat?
Oh, The Shining, probably. In that way, again, a father, dealing with going insane at this hotel. It was that movie, obviously it's Stanley Kubrick, and the gravitas of that movie was intense for me to be watching whenever I watched as a 12-year-old or something. When I go back and watch it now, I'm like, what were you doing watching that movie as a 12-year-old? Or The Exorcist, I watched that recently too, and it's just got such a power. It's just such a big, dense movie. It's intense.
Are you excited for Mike Flanagan's?
Which
He's doing The Exorcist.
He is?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. Oh, didn't he do one already?
Yeah.
Is he doing another one? Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. No.
It's going to be cool.
Okay.
All right. But you don't just stay in the horror lane.
No.
You have been recurring on Grey's.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about that because it's interesting to come into this behemoth, this institution that is Grey's, and people are looking at you. What is that like to enter that kind of world as an actor in a set among other people, but also the fans?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, there was no social media. There's not these fandoms that we think about it today. So when I got into that show, I didn't really think about it. I think as a younger actor, I would have been kind of bowled over by the fan reaction for better and worse. But now it's kind of fun to just not worry about it and just go and they write these great scripts for me. They're very welcoming to me. They have this amazing family atmosphere over there. I live very close to the set. I can walk there. I never do, but I could walk there in Los Angeles. But no, it's great. I actually really love doing it. And some of the fan reaction, they're so passionate about the Meredith Grey character. And it's fun for me. It's been fun to see where I've started, 4 years ago and where I've come with the fans, a little bit. I think they're a little more accepting of me now than they were. But I love it. I love doing the show with her. It's been great to me.
When you talk about that fan reaction and you talk about coming into a space where people are still very heavily Team Derek, he's been gone for 10 years, so people are still very attached.
But that's the whole show. I mean, that is the whole show. I mean, that's like, you're not getting around that. The show's been on for 21 seasons based on many things, but a huge part of it was their chemistry and what those people started, 2005 or 6 or whenever it was. But that. I mean, that's a nice place. It's like getting, bad reviews that, they're very freeing in a certain kind of way. You can just say, okay, well, is that the worst it can be? You can just go and be yourself and do what you can do and just have fun with it.
But Scott, I was thinking recently how you were kind of, to me, among the patient zero people for the idea of like, team this, team that.
Yeah.
Team Ben, Team Noel. I don't think I ever saw anything like that until Felicity.
Right.
That it was... Sure. You got to pick a side if you want to enjoy this show.
Yes.
You are on a team, and then we have Team Edward, Team Jacob. We have all the other teams. What was it like for you? When did you realize that this was a thing?
Right. Pretty early. I mean, that show was a whirlwind. I sent a videotape down from Toronto. 3 days later, I was on a plane down to Los Angeles. I'd never been there. Shot the pilot. Stayed for the summer, the show got picked up. But when I read that script, I'm telling you, I knew nothing. I was a dumb kid at that point. I was a young actor, I had no idea, but I was like, this is going to be something. I don't know why I thought so, I just did. And of course it took off, and when that all started, it was pretty intense. I think for Carrie, it was super intense when that fan reaction, there's no school preparing you for what can happen when a show hits, I see these shows coming out now with these kids, and I think it's even times 1,000 with social media and all that. We didn't have that, thankfully, but yeah, it was intense. I was a little bit like, you know, put my, you know, blinders on and just tried to get through it on that level. You know, now I'm much more able to do this, and I really ran from press back then. It was just, you know, it was a different time for me.
Yeah, I want to ask you, because you have managed to curate an entire career for yourself for 25 years now, making these choices where you are constantly zigging and zagging.
Yeah.
Is it based on, I don't always want to be, even though in some ways you are always going to be that guy from Felicity?
Yeah. The first, I have a theory that whatever you know, the thing that hits is people remember, and you know, you're always going to have that. You can't run from it. It's going to be there, and got to enjoy it. And of course, I got to do a show with Kerry Russell, Matt Reeves' first show, J.J. Abrams' first TV show. It's magic. I mean, you don't know how good you had it. So that I never want to run from that. It was a great time in my life. I loved it. But yeah, that will always be there. You know, doing Grays is sort of a callback to that. The way they used to shoot that show was very similar to Felicity. So there's some similarities there that's been nice to go back and do that. That's part of it too.
Scott, I want to ask you one other thing, because you did not start out dreaming of being an actor. This was not the thing you wanted from the time you were a child. No. You were a swimmer.
Yeah.
How did having a setback, having an injury, would you say that was one of the good things that's happened in your life, or do you still kind of think, I wish I'd been in the Olympics?
It's complicated, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, but it took me a long time to get over that. I took my mom. My mom was a big-time runner, actually more successful than I was, but she was very close to the Olympics, and she ran at a very high level. We went to the Olympics together. And I took her to Paris. So, you know, we still have all of that, and we were very emotional when we were there. It was a beautiful trip. But yeah, that's really my family's thing. My mom and dad met at a track meet. My mom's father was steeped in athletics, you know, in the culture. He was a coach. And swimming for me was, you know, very important. I was lucky to be at a special high school for gifted athletes and gifted artists. And when I got injured, I fell in love with the dancers, started hanging out with all the crazy artists, and that just pulled me real quick. So I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Not just big breaks. I'm talking about that, you know, that immersion in that school was what brought me here. So when I think about lucky breaks, that's really being at that high school was the big one.
One more thing I want to ask, because you've got a new movie coming out that I saw the trailer for, and I couldn't help see, to me, a certain parallel between it and Teacup, Cellar Door.
Yeah.
This is the Pandora's Box story.
Yeah.
This is what happens if I literally cross a line? What happens if I literally open a box? What is it about that story that is truly the Pandora's box? It is as old as storytelling itself that draws us, that draws you.
Yeah, I think it's just exciting for an audience. You know, when you read those, you're like, okay, if they can be with us, if they buy this relationship, if they're going to watch us go through this journey, I think everybody feels they connect to it. So it's easy to do as an actor to kind of jump into that story. And yeah, we'll see. That's an interesting thriller. I have not seen it yet, but hopefully I'll see it soon.
All right, but in the meantime, we can keep watching Teacup on Peacock.
Yes.
I've seen the whole season, and I can tell you, it never stops twisting up until the last moment. You're going to keep guessing. Scott Speedman, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Salon Talks. If you had a good time, why not subscribe right over here so you can get more conversations with your favorite artists, actors, directors, writers, comedians, musicians, politicians, everybody you love, and I love too. And while you're here, why not watch another video right now?